The Missing Boy of Somosierra. The Strangest Vanishing in Europe. The disappearance of the boy from Somosierra is the mysterious disappearance of the body of a 10-year-old boy, Juan Pedro Martinez Gomez, known as the boy from Somosierra. An apparent road accident. June 25, 1986, around 6 a.m. in the morning, a Volvo F12 truck carrying 20,000 liters of nearly pure sulfuric acid for industrial use begins the descent of a Somosierra mountain pass north of Madrid province, Spain, with increasing speed. The driver first overtakes the truck on the same lane, then the one before it, this time passing so close that he knocks the lateral mirror off the other truck. He approaches a third truck next without changing the lane. Instead, he pushes it from behind until the other vehicle is forced out of the road. It is evident to other drivers that their colleague has a problem with the brakes. A few seconds later, the inevitable happens and the Volvo crashes on another truck coming on the opposite direction at the astounding speed of 140 kilometers per hour. The Volvo overturns and its tank ruptures, spilling its content over the cabin and the terrain next to the road, rising a toxic cloud that covers the immediate area to top the sudden hellish scene. Road rescue rushes to the area. A justice of the peace from a nearby town notifies a man and a woman in the cabin of the first truck, already dead and showing signs of acid corrosion. They are the only fatal victims. Since they can do nothing about them, the rescuers center their efforts in evacuating the other injured drivers and pouring sand and lime over the acid to neutralize it before it reaches the nearby Duration River and causes an ecological disaster. 3 hours later, they recover the bodies from the cabin and identify them easily as Andres Martinez, a truck driver from Fuente Alamo, Murcia, and owner of the vehicle, and his wife Carmen Gomez, who sometimes accompanied him in his travels. As for the acid, it was taken in Cartagena the previous evening and was expected later the day in Bilbao, on the other side of the country. That afternoon, a civil guard agent picks up the phone and delivers the news to Carmen's mother in Murcia. Her reply surprises him. "And the boy? Please tell me the boy is all right." What Interpol would dub the strangest missing person case in Europe had just begun. A family vacation gone bad. Juan Pedro Martinez was 10 years old and the only child of his parents. He had accompanied his father in other travels, but never in one this long. He had been told about the cows grazing on the green, humid Basque pastures at school, a world apart from the Murcian semi-desert, and was so obsessed with it that he had made his father promise to take him where if he got good grades in school. Since the school year had just ended and Juan Pedro had delivered, his father felt the obligation to take him in the next delivery to the Basque country. Andres talked his wife into accompanying them so she would watch over the kid while he unloaded the truck in its destination, and they'd visit the Basque country together in the following days. Thus, on June 24th, Andres arrived at Fuente Alamo in the car of his sister, and the three left for Cartagena at 7 p.m., where the truck was loaded and ready. This was the only vehicle owned by the family. But was Juan Pedro on the truck when the accident happened? Examination of the cabin found child-oriented cassettes and boys' clothes in the back area, but no trace of the child. They lifted the truck with a crane to see if he had fallen outside during the impact and the vehicle landed over him. Juan Pedro would be traveling with no seatbelt on, but he was not there. Several groups from police to volunteers, students, and the military combed the area looking for the child or his remains for days. They dug the sand and lime to check if he had been overlooked and accidentally buried, but the only thing they found, one running shoe sole, was a size different to Juan Pedro's and was most likely there before the accident. Of course, the fact that the truck was carrying sulfuric acid, the cabin had been showered with it, and a child was missing was not lost on anyone. But chemists denied that Juan Pedro's body could have been dissolved entirely in the acid and leave no trace. For one, the body would have to be entirely submerged in the acid, not just showered with it. They performed tests with animal and human remains and found that even if this had happened after the body fell on a ditch or an enclosed area within the cabin itself that got flooded and acted as a tub, he'd have to remain there for 24 hours before all the soft tissue was lost, and up to 5 days before the bones were seriously damaged. Even in this case, elements that don't react to the acid like hair, nails, teeth, and parts of his clothing should be found. There was nothing, and as such Juan Pedro's status as a missing person remained. The truck's tachometer was recovered intact, revealing that it had made the scheduled stops at Venta del Olivio, near Cieza Murcia, Las Pedronieras, Cuenca at 012, a gas station near Madrid at 3 o'clock, and the Inn Aragon near Cabanillas at the beginning of the mountain pass at 5:30. The waiter had no trouble in recalling the family and even what they asked for, 2 coffees for the parents and cake for the boy. They ate, paid, and left undisturbed. He did not see them board a vehicle, but shortly after he saw through the window that a tanker truck was leaving the parking lot. Up to this point, the family's voyage was proceeding as normal. Strange discoveries. The tachometer also revealed that something weird happened next. On the ascension of the mountain pass, the truck made 12 extremely brief stops, the shortest lasting less than 1 second and the longest, the last one near the highest point, about 20. Truckers familiar with this stretch of road claim that they'd make 1 stop at most and that 2 is a waste of time already. So if, like Martinez, they had just stopped at Cabanillas, there wasn't a traffic jam at the time that would justify this many stops. Furthermore, examination of the truck found that, contrary to what everyone had assumed at the time of the accident, the Volvo's brakes were not damaged at all, and that Andres Martinez had speed to the degree on purpose. The trucker that had been pushed out of the road from behind declared that in the immediate aftermath of the accident, a white Nissan Vanette van had stopped by his vehicle. It was driven by a mustached man that talked in a foreign accent, who was accompanied by a blonde woman. The man told him not to worry, that the woman was his wife and that she was a nurse. The woman only checked his injuries briefly before the van departed to check on the truck that had crashed face front with the Volvo, whose driver was gravely injured and was not seen again. The testimony is clearly that the origin of one claim that is routinely brought up in spooky sites and programs about this case. It is said that 2 shepherds saw a white van stopping by the Volvo in the aftermath of the accident, from where an unusual tall Nordic-looking man and woman dressed in white doctor outfits descended and picked a package from the truck's cabin. This tale is as old as the accident, and police did in fact try to locate the 2 supposed local shepherds to interrogate them, but found none in the area that had witnessed the accident. The strange vanishing gained notoriety in the press and soon attracted the usual range of physics, UFO chasers, conspiracy theorists, and fake sightings that marred the investigation. Theories. Common speculation is that the family was victim of a random encounter with drug traffickers. It is said that there was a police checkpoint in Somosierra that morning. I'm not sure if this is confirmed. And that in order to pass it safely, drug runners had forced the truck to stop on the way up and offered Andres to carry the drugs for them, reasoning that a family driving a legit transport truck would be beneath suspicion. Andres refused and drug runners kidnapped the child, so he chased them with the truck until the accident happened. Followers of the shepherd story that don't try to turn it into a supernatural encounter claim that Andres accepted and the child was taken as leverage by the people in the van, who would later pick up the drugs they had put on the truck cabin before road rescue showed up. In either scenario, the accident happens and the traffickers dispose of the child later to leave no witnesses. Others bring up pedophiles, cults, and organ traffickers, either kidnapping Juan Pedro on the way up and his father chasing after them, or Juan Pedro himself being the mysterious package retrieved from the cabin after the accident happened for unrelated reasons. In 1987, a national newspaper, El País, usually a serious source, published that traces of heroin had been found in the truck, though not in the cabin but in the tanker itself, which doesn't make sense for the random encounter scenario. There was an investigation on Andres Martinez's business, but they could not tie him to anyone in the drug business or other criminal enterprise. An officer involved in the case proposed an alternative Good Samaritan hypothesis. According to him, someone, possibly the couple in the white van, picked up a severely injured Juan Pedro from the crash site and drove him to a hospital, but he died before reaching it, and they disposed of the body to avoid questions. A few days later, after the accident, the boy was claimed to be seen in Bilbao, the end of the journey. This claim was investigated but led nowhere. Another was put forward by a driving school teacher who told police that he met with the child in downtown Madrid in May 1987. According to him, a blind old foreign woman entered his business to ask for the location of the American embassy, claiming that her family had escaped Khomeini's Iran just 6 months prior and they were living off charity. She was guided by a boy aged 10 or 11 that spoke Spanish with an Andalusian accent and seemed confused. When the teacher asked about the boy, the woman changed subject, and he later recognized him as Juan Pedro Martinez when his photo was shown on TV. Juan Pedro was not Andalusian, but he was from rural Campo de Cartagena, where the local accent has no th sound, like in some Andalusian accents. He was so convinced that it was Juan Pedro that he went several times to the Red Cross post where the woman said they were getting their food, but they never came. However, this claim was not believed by either the police or Juan Pedro's relatives. The accident happened in the old Madrid-Burgos road that was then the main connecting Madrid with northern Spain. Today has been largely abandoned after the construction of the A1 highway that runs parallel to it. The white terrain on the side of the road is some of the lime poured after the accident.